Mike Macharia is, well, like we've said, an entrepreneur, a mentor, and very many things. He's been in the tech space for a while, and he's now our next guest. He's gotten to that level where he says, you know what, I have so many battle scars, bruises, I have so many, you know, everything,
right,
that I have looked around and I've seen, I'm not alone. There are many other people who are just walking with so many things, bandages all over them. And you ask them, hey, ni biashara. Not many of them will tell you, Atini God Maze.
Right.
There are many who will tell you very many other things. Mike, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We fix the nation here one conversation at a time.
Okay.
Doing the kind of thing that you're also trying to do. Just, you know, using the platform that you launched the other day, just say, you know what, just even by contributing on the Business Daily, this is how I want to share thoughts and feelings of entrepreneurs such as myself. Karibu.
Asante.
Janet usually sits here, Janet Bogwa,
yes,
and Mariam on this other side. But today, because Janet Bogwa is away, Mariam is here, and she'll also be doubling up as Janet. So, Jano. Jano Makuts.
Jano Makuts.
Nice to meet you, Maria.
Very nice to meet you, Mike. I'm well.
Perfect.
It's so nice to have you. But before we go into matters entrepreneurship, the quote of the day comes from Lebogang Mashile, a South African poet. Says, until the pain is named, it cannot be healed. Until the pain is named, it cannot be healed. What does that say to you?
I think it's an interesting analogy, and I think as from if coming from an entrepreneur point of view, the first thing is accepting the pain. It's like grief, right?
Step one, acceptance.
Yeah. Once you accept, you move,
yes,
right? So I guess you need to accept it for you to move on, right? And I guess that's the way I relate to it. And sometimes accepting means communicating.
It does,
right? And communicate to stakeholders. Because you have to heal yourself as an entrepreneur for you to communicate. That's how I see it.
I like that. When you think of your entrepreneurship journey, what's been the hardest thing you've had to accept? And I don't mean like failure. I mean a specific ilea.
I think what I've had to accept is that you'll have people along the way. You're going to help them, hoping they will step up for you, but they won't. And accepting that early enough is great, right? And you're going to have people who are going to connect to you today, but tomorrow they're going to turn around and say, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's the reality, right? It depends at what point of your life you're transiting.
Right.
In short.
In short, yes.
Utarukwa.
So you just move without, do you not move without expectations of people? Do you not have expectations?
I do what I have to do. I do it with my heart out. For instance, what we're doing at Founders, for me, it's not financial. It is saying, it'll happen. It'll save somebody else. There's my son. You see, I came with him today. And I'm building the future for them to communicate, because nobody built for us. Nobody told us how to navigate. I was telling him my first employer was 10th floor in this building. Just brings very good memories. I was 23 or 2.
Nice.
And I'm thinking to myself, my God, this building is still here. So many people out of this lift have passed on, but have they left enough for the next generation to communicate?
I like that.
It's a good one. Mike, people who don't know you, maybe they've come across your services or products, but they don't know you. They're hearing us saying, oh, Mike is an entrepreneur. Just give us an introduction. Who is Mike Macharia?
I would say I'm an individual who knows how to navigate chaos, right? And entrepreneurship also is an opportunity for you to navigate chaos. You bring order, and that creates an opportunity for you. So technology is just one of those mediums that helps you navigate chaos. So I'm an entrepreneur the last 25 years, I would say. And I've built several businesses, and I'm a mentor to many, and hired thousands or hundreds of people under my banner, helped many of them become entrepreneurs. So I guess I'm a name many people relate to in the area of entrepreneurship. Gone through significant scale, right? Significant, almost to be bought kind of opportunities, almost to exit. You just see the corner and you say, me, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to become a billionaire forever. And then until it's signed, it's not signed. I was just meeting, I just realized across, at the reception as I was waiting for you guys to start, I was with the with a team from the minister who just left. And I was telling them, you guys, I hear the minister talking about Huduma centers. I said, these Huduma centers was my idea from my gate. I left my gate one day and I say about chaos. And my watchman asked me a very simple question. Can you give me 50% of my pay? I go and get an ID. And I thought to myself, Ati, what?
You wanted us 50%
of your pay. So
salary
I thought,
advance.
Yeah, me, I take 50% of my pay to get an ID. I said, hey, what is this about? And I remember driving, and I called Ndemo then, PS Ndemo. I told him, hey, can I come and see you? Have an idea? Because we'd just done a Safaricom project where you lose a SIM card. It would take 3 days. Now you lose a SIM card, you get instant fulfillment. So I said, why can't you do that for an ID? So I went to see Ndemo. Ndemo said, Mike, this is a good idea. I like it. Why don't we host it at Connected Kenya, a government event for IT? And I presented it. And people said, oh, you're amazing. Long and short of it, the guys went to Brazil to benchmark it. It went through cabinet papers. You had a cabinet paper. It got approved in 2013. Modaura was then driving it. He went to The Hague, unfortunately. It was given to somebody else, His Excellency Raila Odinga, who took the project. And then it was never implemented in the 2013 era. So when the next regime came on board, I just went to talk to them and said, guys, there's this project here. We have done 3 years of legwork with the guys of likes of Dalmas Otieno. You remember Isha Hakia then? So why don't we do something about it? I ideated that same idea, sent it to that. I know I took it, CS then, and she ran with it. And then we were given to pilot the first Huduma Center in, somewhere on this road. That is what became Huduma Center.
Yes.
So this is the one at Telposta Towers.
Yes, that's what happened. Then we did one more in Machakos. It works. Then we did one more in near Cooperative Bank across Costa. It worked. So when I hear, and my vision was always that when you're in the streets, when somebody tells you Huduma or somebody tells you an ID, you don't have to ask, give me money to go and bribe. And today, that ideation is what has become. So one of my claim to fame is a project like that, which I think has transformed the country in one way. And I see regime after regime come and say it's the greatest project they've done. But that is the real genesis of that idea.
Of Huduma centers.
It's that security guy.
That security guy who asked me 50% of his pay
to go and push for an ID.
And I got shocked.
Yeah. I'm glad we're at a much better place now. There's also some pushback now. We're almost rewinding. I know there was talks of 1,000 bob for an ID that was scrapped anyway. But let's talk more matters entrepreneurship. You've said it very, very plainly. There's people who will tell you the truth. There's people who will give you the no kugeria, we're just trying. And then there's those who will tell you outrightly what it looks like to be an entrepreneur. When you think through the last, let me put 15 years, what has been the hardest year business-wise for you and then business-wise for the country?
Interesting question. Having been last 15 years, I would say last 15 interesting. Okay, last 15 years, there's been many moving parts. I think the first one of the moving parts, I think my difficulty here was 2018. I had we said this large project for the Ministry of Health, which now has become the SHA project you know about, and we had like 200 plus employees on a project like that, and just how sometimes power is abused, I guess, and they cancel our project for whatever reason. And then you have 200, you have a 747 plane full of fuel, full of all these things, significant investments in a project like that, a lot of deliberations, meetings, blah, blah, blah. All you know what it takes to execute a project at that scale. It's a lot of money. And then it gets cancelled, and you wonder, what do you do with all these employees? People you convince to leave their jobs in Europe to come and join you because it's a country transformation project.
200 families as well.
As people who said their careers from university with you, we've seen them get married with you, and in your business now they're moving. And every day you go to work and wonder, what do I do with these people? And going through Senate, going through a lot of hilarious situations that you don't have to go through as an entrepreneur. But at the same time, you're always thinking, am I doing this for the country? You say, am I doing this for me? It's so deep. First, it's a very complex project. In itself, it's such a complex project. And then that was a difficult year because then you have to lay off people. You have to rethink your brand. You have to rethink what to do. You have to rethink, what do you do? Do you sue? Don't you? Then that's the time you know you were shareholders, some exit, some stay. The many decisions you have to make as an individual. There's a lot of conversations. Eventually, that happens, and then you start rebuilding. And I think in today's article, I talk about seasons. When to blossom, when to
hibernate.
And I think when you talk about that is when to know this same land could generate significant yield. But sometimes as entrepreneurs, when you go through that moment, you keep planting, not knowing that the rains are going to come maybe 3 months later. So everything you've planted really goes to waste because you don't know when to say, I just need to relax.
Right.
So when you go through that kind of moment, you relax. So that was a difficult moment. And I think for me, maybe it took 2, 3 years, 4 years to sort of just balance. But also realize for 25 years of my life, I've always had a lot of employees, a lot of lives around me. Like you sort of don't show up on a Monday, there's panic. Then now, after that happened, there's no panic because you wake up, you've got 5 employees as opposed to 300. So now your life is easier.
Yeah.
So I realized it was a big toll, realizing carrying all those lives. And I really admire any entrepreneur who gets up in the morning with hundreds of people looking up to them because any day you sleep, you don't wake up. It's a crisis. I don't think they realize that. So for me, I've lived both sides where I wake up and the 5 people in my life are waiting for me, the driver, the who. So today, I really admire, and I met a lot of companies that have a lot of employees working for them. So that, I think, for me, is the growth in the last 15 years. And then coming back to what I think is the most difficult part in the country, for me, is really around what I would call the circular reference between entrepreneurs, taxman, banks. That whole ecosystem right now is really jaded.
It is.
I think it's a very jaded ecosystem. It's a circular reference.
Explain.
And
Entrepreneur,
taxman,
bank.
And I just look at some numbers. I think luckily I had some time outside. Okay, and I'll give you context as we look at this. As I look at some numbers here. Okay, if I look at some numbers here, Eric. Okay, here. I look at number 1. Think about it. You borrowed money. You first you left the house. Very excited like me. Built a business. It was doing well. Supplying to private sector. You decided, look, I need to scale. And who is the next big customer?
Government.
It's government. So naturally, unaambia kuja, file supply uniform, whatever you do. Getting that business in itself is a very difficult task. So you get a business. So who do you go to lend? Your bank. Your bank tells you, we believe this purchase order can be banked. But earlier, maybe 10 years ago, they would bank purchase orders, government purchase order. Today, I don't think any bank does it. I would like a bank to step up and say, we finance a government. Nobody does that
I would love
business.
to see it.
Nobody does that business.
Yes.
So then maybe you're lucky. They listen to you. Maybe you're not lucky. Maybe they ask you for assets. You then say, I'm so committed. Because entrepreneurs, we constantly have that enthusiasm. Naturally, because how would you get from out of bed, right? So you go supply, very happy. You supply, you say, I've done. You've borrowed, you've remortgaged, you've borrowed even from a loan shark, as you can imagine, and you've built, Now you say, let pesa. Something happens, always regime change, departmental change. The government is faceless. I call it a faceless human being.
There's
Today
always
it's Eric.
There's a signatory you've
Tomorrow
never
it's
heard
Mariam,
of
but that's
before.
it.
Mariam, you say now where's Mariam?
Yeah.
Now what happened to Eric? Eric had a soul with me. Mariam says, I don't know you.
Or Mariam is out of the country, just give her 2 weeks, she'll be back.
Exactly.
2 weeks later, she's up country, there are some matters that needed her attention. 2 weeks later, her schedule has just been so busy. We'll look for time next month. And that's how 2 years later, you've still not been paid.
And there's also budget cycles.
Yes.
There's budget.
Gosh.
Have you been budgeted for? Was your money there? So now, okay, I'll come to that. So pending bills have hit 511 billion. The last quarter, they paid 113 billion, okay? And then in the meantime, we did an audit to say which pending bills. I'm sure you guys were here. You repeated.
Yes.
You discussed about it. 200-something billion easy bills we can verify post-payment, or 300 billion.
Yeah.
So how many families, how many transactions? It's like 60,000 bills have been verified. Wow. 6,000 bills, if you assume, divide by, let's say, if a company does 1.5, that's around 45,000 companies that are affected. Those are 45,000 entrepreneurs who wake up every morning with the hope they'll get paid. So, number 2, you went to the bank to borrow the money. You're not paying, but the bank is making money from you. They're not going to stop making money. The moment you're about to get to a tipping point of double your loan, they tell you come and renegotiate. They don't give you back more money to engineer your business. They just restructure your loan.
Stretching.
And now your $2 million becomes $4 million. When maximum it would have been capped at
3.
At 2 million because it's maybe borrowed one.
Oh, the 2 was interest.
One was interest, so you had 2. But the law says you cannot double interest.
Says you can't go beyond. Let's take a break, Mike. It's a very good thread, and please don't lose that train of thought. Right. But we have to take a break at 28 minutes after 8. We are hosting entrepreneur and mentor Mike Macharia. He writes a column every Thursday on the Business Daily. Today is it's when to hibernate or when to blossom. Founders who learn to listen to the seasons outlast the storms. We are talking about entrepreneurship. There are very many people who are entrepreneurs in whatever, side hustle, main hustle, hustle. But how do you navigate that space? We'll be back shortly with Mike. Good morning.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Tutume video.
Nitakutumia tu.
Tafadhali.
Kama tuko kwa streets.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Just hustling.
Yes.
You and your son Leo, and show us. This is our mentoring the younger
generation. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to bring them to the studio. Kuna haja kulala nyumbani. You're on midterm. No, they finished the year.
Yes.
So nikamwambia akasema yeye mwenyewe I'm coming. Kama no problem. Twende.
Very good.
Yes.
You're telling us about circular reference.
Yes.
You know that linkage between entrepreneur, the taxman, the bank. You've gone to the bank, you've borrowed money, you have taken a government project, it's taken long to pay. We're still at that point where 45,000 or so companies are still just waiting to hear whether they are in the next payment cycle. In the meantime, the bank is still doing the thing. Your interest is still accumulating. And what happened to the taxman?
Now, you see, now what happens is, so let's look at how the circular reference happens. Your bank is clocking, but you told the bank, please, maybe they even invoice discounted you. So, but you generated an invoice, because how does the government pay you if you don't have an e-TIMS?
Yeah.
So you can't have a pending bill if there's no invoice, correct? What do? You bill. And you decide, as I bill, the government says, I see your e-TIMS invoice, there's VAT, X amount, there's X amount. Like you just your pesa. So now everything is automated. So 60 days later or 45 days later, you receive a notification. There's pending VAT you've not paid.
For the invoice that you generated.
That has not been paid.
Has not been paid. And maybe, unfortunately, your cash flow is not balanced. Okay, so unasema, no, I ignore for now as I keep pushing. But things don't go that way. The taxman says, stop jokes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Slapping. They write you and tell you in 14 days, if you don't respond and pay us, we will put you'll do whatever.
We'll start accruing penalties. We'll start.
That already starts happening.
Immediately.
That's automatic.
That's automatic.
This other one is now the agency notices.
Yeah, agency inakuja. Sasa wanaandikia all banks that are in this earth, in this country. This guy, his bank account owes us this amount of money.
Yeah.
Do not release. Now, sasa kama kuandikia and you have to pay a 50 or even 20 million. Your bank, even if you receive 100,000 from your customers, that bank account cannot move. So basically, you're not moving. Then number 3 thing, you get, the bank then puts you on NPL, on credit reference. Your bank account can't operate. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You can't trade because you can't get certificate of good
conduct
or
tax compliance.
So the same guy who had a business now can't move.
You're stuck.
Sawa, ukasema, so unasema, hey, the way to deal with this one, wacha tuende kotini. So then KRA has to deal with hundreds of cases because the entrepreneurs know that's the only way to survive. Right. Injunction. Judges are just busy. Courts are busy doing what they should not be doing.
Right.
Then there's something called tax holiday. You need, what do they call it? They call it with the finance bill 2014 or 13.
It's called waive amnesty. Yes.
Hiyo sasa tukapewa tukasema acha tuende let's leave courts. Let's agree to settle this thing. Kama good friends.
Yeah.
You settle, you agree, I'm going to pay you. There's no interest. But then where is the money going to come from?
You have not been paid.
Pending bill.
So nasema okay, hold on. Nasema you guys, there's on one side you owe me money.
On the other side, I owe you.
On the other side,
I owe you.
I owe you.
The unique number between two is the same number called PIN number. That's how they look for you.
Yes.
Tell them mfanye ile kitu inaitwa contra. It's not an English, it's not a complex financial term. Contra. I was telling somebody this yesterday when I met who chairs the parliamentary honorable MP who chairs the parliamentary committee on trade. I told him, look, Bwana MP, well, surely what's this? Okay? He said, why don't you just, somebody can run a circuit, somebody can run what you call a pivot table. You know, pivot, Excel, pivot. PIN number, pending bills.
Right.
PIN number, KRA, owing. Do something called equals. Equals. Is that correct? Minus this, contract tuende. Watu wote tuwape certificate of good
conduct.
That's what maneno. Is that correct? And total I can see in as you do that, the amount of taxes and penalties waived is 140 billion through this amnesty. Is that correct? So it's an amnesty measure. Now it's done. It's gone. Now I think with the finance bill. Now it's about somebody has to decide if they will forgive you interest or not. But pending bills has still not been paid. So interest has cropped. But who is then lending to government?
The banks.
The banks. And how much has government borrowed from banks? 635 billion. Interest, quarter one profit before tax for banks is 73 billion. It has gone up by, it is now, core bank profit has gone up by 17%. So banks, bado,
they're good.
They're good.
Better than good, actually.
Yeah, but NPL has gone to 17.6%, non-performing ratio. So sometimes you ask, are banks operating on quicksand? Because if we don't pay spending bills, us entrepreneurs out of heartache will die. We'll leave you that pending bill.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
You won't be able to collect it because nobody's helping you collect it. What's going to happen? So I feel that we are currently in a very interesting, what you call circular reference position. And something needs to be done unless this is going to give way. Because 45,000 people, if you take each of them with 20 people, that's 900, a million people, or I don't know how many, is it? 10, 20? No. Yeah, it's 1 million people. Every day who are waking up figuring out this entrepreneur of ours. Is he going to move or not move? So me, that's the biggest elephant in the room. And you can remedy it with very simple things. Can you do contra? Can we pass a bill? Can we agree we need to do contra between Treasury and KRA? Can we first do that? That will reduce the bill by another 50 billion. Then they give us our tax compliance. We do our business. We start generating the business.
And release the agency notices.
Exactly. So by the time an entrepreneur comes to you, let me tell you, by the time an entrepreneur leaves their house to go build a business, to hire people, the courage it takes, if you break that down, if you break an entrepreneur down to a point, I can assure you, 50% of entrepreneurs, we talked about startup scale-ups, break down and decide we'll never hire other people, the business, the country is gone.
True.
So we need to understand the impact of that.
It's a big thing. Mike, coming back into just looking at enterprise and entrepreneurs, there are very many people who are, thinking, they have an idea and they can see themselves raking in the billions, right? If I just go by your example of the idea for Huduma number, you hear something and you see opportunity. But then it took something for you. Number one, you had the contacts. And number two, you had the guts. You've done it before. So, I just make a call. They buy, they don't buy. It's okay, I can move on. I have other things to do. But there are very many people who have an idea and they just don't know. So now, how do I move this idea into a business? How do I move this idea into a solution that then can earn me money? How did you do that the first time?
Especially when it's, thank you. Because I was about to say, especially when it's not diversifying your portfolio. When this is the portfolio,
it's your first time.
The bread, the butter, the rent, the mortgage, the everything. Yes.
I would say that ideas are 1%. 99% is execution. So many people have ideas, 100%. And I can assure you, every idea you think you have, somebody else has it. Even now, ChatGPT makes it easy. You just put your idea. Is this idea sound? You'll be told there's a guy in Russia, there's a guy in Nairobi. The difference between the guys who make it and the guys who don't are the guys who execute. Who say, I'm going to try and start this. That's the first conversation, right? Yeah. Are you going to move it from ideation? Sometimes I think a lot of entrepreneurs make a mistake of saying, I'm going to hide. I'm the only one who knows. But how will your first angel investor know to fund you?
It's like
keep quiet.
Wataiba
nini? They already know. Trust me, 100 and other people already know that idea. The question is starting. The question is starting. Now, the moral courage to start also comes by people trying to figure out who else has done it. Can we share? Unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, we don't like sharing when you're successful or you want to lay low. Many entrepreneurs tell you they'd rather just lay low.
Under the radar.
Under the radar. Under the radar means taonekana na KRA, taonekana na nani. But at that expense of you lay under the radar, what happens? is nobody's sharing their stories. We are very different from the developed world, who are the first people to celebrate both failure and success.
True.
Yeah. So that's also a question, because we don't celebrate failure. Also, many people don't want to start. So that's the difference.
Because failure is negative.
It's negative.
Yeah.
But failure is a learning curve.
It is.
Like your child walks, falls. It's a learning curve.
It is.
Nobody says the child is going to start walking and running. They have to fall, they have to get hurt. That's part of life. So if you've gone through that, business is the same way. Is that correct? From startup to scale up. It's the way it is. So we just need to get more people to be out there. But they also can't get out there every day. We're talking about pending bills, kulenda kulifanyika, auctions here, there. You know, people say, no, you know, you don't know how, you cannot become the SI unit of reference why you should not do something. So people are going to say, me, I cannot do. You see what happened to Mike? You know, I cannot. You see what happened to Eric?
Yes.
You know what happened to Mariam? Where? And unfortunately, people want a reference point that they can relate to. If the reference point is who never succeeded, then
That's the one they go with.
But then sometimes I do wonder if there is some merit in sharing just the stories, because what we'll hear, Mike will come and he'll tell us about his successes, and then he'll say, you know, along the way I failed. Eric will come and do the same. He'll be like, yes, as a tech billionaire, I've failed many times before. But we never hear from Eric when he is the college dropout who is yet to be the tech billionaire. You know, we only see the end, and then now...
Or is it that we don't want to hear? Is it that we so you can see Eric struggling,
Yes.
all right, but you just don't have time for it, because I mean, Eric, failure,
Yeah.
talk up, but maybe just observing Eric, you'll be able to pick up something, to learn something, and go with it. Is it?
Could
this also be inherent?
It's definitely partly an inherent bias, because it's just like, ati anafanya nini? AI. This is like 5 years ago. Imagine someone saying they're getting into artificial intelligence. You just be like,
What are you talking about?
And then 5 years later, it's like, wow, Eric. And then Eric says, no, you know, I failed at this, I failed at that. Wow, what a story. We don't want to hear the before. I do agree. But also we don't give it that much weight when it is happening, because it's a failure. Right?
But I think it's also, blending on what Eric said and what you've just said, Mariam, it's human nature. Do we like listening to bad news?
No.
Do we feature bad news? No. Are you going to go out of your way unless there's an accident? But for an entrepreneur, that's collateral damage. Is that correct? So I think what lacks is the intermediary platform that allows these entrepreneurs to converge. Then you amplify that singular message to the continent or to the world. And I think that's what we're doing together here, right? We said, okay, we come together and say, let's set up a founders arena, founders battlefield. What is common amongst us, whether you're small, you're female entrepreneur, male entrepreneur, startup, scale up, one thing that's true is the battlefield remains.
Yes.
And the battlefield, as you said, has got plasters, scars, everything. That one we all agree, Nikubaya. Let us agree. And we all agree. And we say we have to go through that curve, right? But the question is, how do you navigate it? And what are the things that you need to know? So coming back to our conversation is to say, when we aggregate those stories, and those stories then come to a platform like this, I'm just a reflection, and I'm just really representing a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are saying, I think today I need to just chill.
Right.
When they read the article, they say, today maybe it's my time to blossom. Maybe I'm sitting here, I'm scared. And that's another problem of entrepreneurs. They're scared. You know the tide is there. You need to ride this wave, but you're scared. What will people think about me?
Start asking yourself questions. How long will the tide last?
Exactly. What will people say if they see me? Should I, shouldn't I? You know, that second guessing is a really personal thing from a transition as you go through it. So I think that's what tends to happen. Then the stories are too small to amplify. So can we bring them together and agree on a common theme that unites us?
How much?
Sorry, go ahead, Maria.
I was going to say, how much of the apprehensiveness right now, because sometimes you're like, I genuinely am trying my best, but imekata. And I've failed once, twice, 3 times, imekata. Sometimes the business environment isn't conducive or this and that. Okay, my ideas maybe are just not hitting. That could be that. Then some other times it's second guessing. It's internal. So how to know the difference? This is me self-sabotaging versus genuinely I've put my best foot forward, na imekata.
It's an interesting conversation, and I would look at it in 5 dimensions. We call it the African Founders Operating System.
Okay.
You see, like now I see you're using a tablet, whatever. That tablet has got an operating system. Okay. So what is the African Founders Operating System? Yeah. What is it? What is it that an entrepreneur in a market like ours will jump or not jump? But yet you go to Europe, they will jump, or even say less, whatever, or even in Asia. I think it's made up we believe it's made up of 5 fundamentals. Number 1 is mindset. You have to have a mindset. That's what you just talked about mind. It's a mindset.
Yes.
Is it a scarcity mindset? Is it an abundant mindset? What do I do? You have to win your mindset as an entrepreneur. The second is you have to have your strategy, right? Which is what your architecture, what you need to do in your business. Some have it, some don't. Some have it figured out. Others have figured out some pieces. But there's a game plan of sorts that you can reference, some academic models, whatever you want to reference. Demand, supply, that stuff. But the other one is emotional. You have to be in an emotional state to accept if I fail, what will happen to my emotions? How do I balance my emotions if I fail? Is that correct? The other one is social. Am I doing this to prove a point? Am I doing this because I have no choice? Am I doing this? What will people think about me? If I fail, if I make it. Right. And then finally, spiritual. Right. There's a spiritual nature in your life where you have to listen to your internal self. May I call it spiritual nature, where even forgiveness, for you to move forward inside with your conversation, you have to forgive. You have to say, okay, what happened to me is fine, but I'm not going to carry it forward with me moving forward. So there's also a spiritual alignment for you to know that. So I think that's, for me, the 5 states that define entrepreneur. And even any entrepreneur is listening to this, for instance, you'll ask yourself, what is it I'm not getting? Is it my spiritual balance I'm not understanding? Because that's intuition, right? Is it my mindset? Is it my social? My kids go to this school. What if I go, it doesn't happen? I had overpriced myself coming from employment. And then what if it didn't happen and I'd over-engineered my finances? What will happen? Yeah. Right? So to me, I think those are the 5 states. And I think in any market, whether you go to the US, you go to Europe, you have to figure out what's the operating system as an entrepreneur to survive.
We have Dennis on the call from Nairobi. I don't know whether he's still on the line. Dennis, are you still there?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for staying here. You have a question or comment to Mike Macharia?
I had a question.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I had a question, but as I was waiting, the guy answered me. I was talking about trying to find out the mindset of a person who wants to start a business. But he has attached on it.
Yes.
But regardless, I just wanted to find out what kind of, at what level does a startup collapse? At the incubation period or at the point where you move a certain stage? And then I want to look at the cultural aspect. Why do people in certain areas like Western fail in business while people in Central like Kiambu, most of the time from my research, their business take off. They may struggle a little bit, but eventually get through. But people from Western, and I'm talking about from Eldoret down to Kusia, Kakamega, like that, normally their business don't take off when they're in Nairobi. Why? What is it? I don't know how you're going to tackle it, but I'm just trying to find out why. Because from the research, people from those areas start their business well and eventually get to a certain point where they are.
Dennis, if I may just ask you, how did you conduct we've lost him. How did you conduct his research?
But even anecdotally, we know what he means.
Even anecdotally, what do you mean? Is that have you found the same to be the truth? People from Kiambu, for example, their businesses start and they thrive.
I don't know about their businesses start and they thrive, but you could definitely say that there's communities that are profiled as being more entrepreneurial than others. Wakikuyu or Somali, it's like, wako tuna yo damu ya biashara is what we like to say. But what's really behind that?
That's an interesting conversation, but I'm not sure I have an answer for that.
It's fair though.
Somebody has to do a research on that. But I think answering the question at which startups, the inflection points of startup.
Yes, at what point?
I think it is when you have a product fit. Product fit or a service fit. When your product, at the beginning, what happens? you're either you're delivering a service or a product. Initially, you wing it, you push, you put your savings, but when the product fits, you iterate, or a service fits, you iterate it.
Yeah.
The moment it takes off, then it takes off. The moment it refuses to iterate, and you don't have capital runway or believability or mindset to say, I'm going to try again, that's where the business collapses.
Okay.
How do you know the fit?
The fit in market will tell you, do you have a shilling? Let me tell you a product fit. Somebody was telling me the other day, amazing, one of my guests in my next show told me, when he came back from I don't know where, he was seated in I think somewhere in Kilimani, and he was trying to sell this business. But when he came out from a meeting, he realized this guy who sells maize, up there in Nachoma maize.
Mahindi choma.
He went there, he sat next to the guy waiting for an Uber. The guy said, unataka mahindi. The guy just looked at him, figured out, this guy has a product fit. Akata mahindi, akampa mahindi, the guy paid 10 bob. The guy went. And then in the taxi, he was thinking, that guy has a product fit. I don't have. That guy sells all this quarter maize. He's making money. But me, I'm not even made a shilling. 1 shilling on my idea. So the guy with the maize has got a product fit. Or a service fit. Him, he doesn't have because nobody's buying. So the question is about timing also, about a business. You could have a product fit, service fit, that the market is not ready for. AI, you talked about AI. What if you came 4 years ago with AI? People would have thought you were crazy.
That's exactly it. They'd be like,
what are you talking about, right? So for me, I think knowing is when the first shilling hits a bank. And we call it minimum viable product.
All right. Now to the second question. And I think what he's speaking to is just, it seems that some people have more business acumen than others, so is it something inbuilt?
Are you born with it?
He uses the community as
Mkono
an
ya
example.
pesa.
Mkono ya pesa, yeah. But even between my brother and I, he's 3 years younger, but has started 5 times more businesses than me, So is it innate or something that's acquired over time, a little bit of both? And how much of that is required, in your honest opinion, in the entrepreneurial journey? Just that mkono ya pesa, or entrepreneurial fit, if I may call it that.
For me, I think entrepreneurs run from multiple dimensions. One dimension is out of necessity. Necessity can drive you to become innovative.
True.
You lose your job. Others, you lose your job and it becomes a necessity. You have to survive, right? Others are just figured out an idea, saw a gap, rare, by the way, those are very rare, and went with it, right? Others is an inherent family streak where when you're in school, you come and work for the family business. So inherently, you listen to families. And that's why they say Somalis or Asians or whoever, because maybe their whole family generation, they talk about business on the dinner table. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
We talk about it, right? Breakfast, mnaongea, kwa gari mnaongea, right? So that also is a conversation where it's culturally embedded in you in your conversation, right? Now, so what happens as you grow that, there's that what you call an ecosystem that supports you. So what I feel happens in some domains, there's an ecosystem support for them to make it. The Somali network, the Asian network, there's an integrated support system, which even dovetails itself down to even owning banks, to owning supply chains. So you're supplying each other within. So there's a trust level that is built across those ecosystems.
Yes.
That's number one. What we've tried to do, I think what the country has tried to do is create what we call circles or cooperatives, which then create that level of trust among people.
Yes.
And that's intervention that maybe governments have tried to do to create a trust level. So cooperative circles have become, especially cooperatives, have become that connecting factor, correct?
True. True.
Number three, some places also about, if I slip out, will somebody open for me or will I get food on the road?
Yeah.
They say in Uganda, you'll always get a banana on the road. So the necessity of hunger and staying hungry, maybe knowing you're going to get a banana, maybe doesn't push you to innovate as much.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go to the lake and get fish.
No,
It's okay.
It's often the explanation for
necessity
why
is the
we
mother of
didn't-
invention.
Yeah, why, for example, Africa is not, the birthplace of electricity and things like that. Because we're a fairly warm climate.
100%.
We get 12 hours of
And we have
daylight.
light.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't need electricity. But if you're in a place that goes dark at 3 p.m.,
You have no
might
choice.
decide, I need to figure it out. We have a caller also coming in from
David.
Nairobi, David. Good morning. I hope you're still on the line, David.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning. What's your question for Mike?
Yeah, good morning to you. And this is a very good. This is very good show. I hope this could be coming every other time.
David, the sound on your radio or TV is confusing you. Just lower the volume.
Okay, I'm doing that right away. My question is,
Yes.
when we are scaling up business, and especially when we are projecting good times in business, sometimes as entrepreneurs we go, we become ambitious, maybe take a bigger loan from the local banks so that we can scale our jobs and leverage on the good times. But as our entrepreneur today has hinted out, there are sometimes not good times. So when you are pressed to pay maybe the loan at the end of every month and the business is not performing well, is it an ethical consideration that an entrepreneur can just forgo the collateral and have the bank have its way, maybe auction the collateral so that you can have your peace of mind? It's just a question that I need to ask because when you are paying a lot of interest end of the month and the business is not supporting, you are likely to have a depression.
That's true.
We need to safeguard the mental space so that
David,
you live for tomorrow, for your family and yourself.
David,
what
thank
do you do with this lingering loan?
Thank you for that. And we're really short of time, Mike. Just as we say goodbye, you can answer that one in a quick one.
Yes.
Is it morally okay?
Wachilia
Wacha
tu
iende.
wachukue gari, wachukue your ploti.
Peace of mind.
Wewe uishi tu.
You know, it's a very good question. In one of our upcoming shows in Founders Battlefield, which you can watch online, there's a topic called when to let go. When to let go. You know, when to say, to be honest, I need to let go. The question is, when to know your runway is done. And letting go means multiple things. I've seen lots of companies going through receivership or winding up. One of the big challenges is when to know I need to give this company to the receivers. I just say, to be honest, I can't deal with 50 cases every other day. The law is clear. Many entrepreneurs hold on when it's too late, but before the business could be salvaged. Now, answering the caller is to say, you just need to know when your runway has come to an end. And you also need to understand at what point this runway will become, at what point it will start affecting you as an individual, because mental health is real.
By what point should you be taking off?
And at what
Beyond
point
that
should you know if this plane has stalled, it has stalled.
Yeah.
And anything I do will crash and burn. And burn means you're going to be in some mortuary somewhere. So you need to figure out at what point
you save yourself.
you save yourself.
Mike Macharia, entrepreneur and mentor, thank you very much for joining us. Keep it here. In the next hour, we give somebody the mic. His name is Jeremiah Moore. It's 9 a.m. Good morning.